Hey, boys and girls, I miss you. I wanted to start one of the things that I'm most excited to do through our e-classroom, and that's taking time to do some read alouds with you. And since I'm at home and I can't get us up to school and the libraries are closed, the books I have are either my favorites from when I was a kid that I kept, or I have some of Gideon's books, so we're going to start there. As I find other books that I don't have that I would like you to hear, I will send you read alouds done by other teachers and other people. So for tonight, I wanted to read you this book. It's called New Feet for Old, and to prove that it was mine, if you look inside the inside cover, this is where my mom wrote my name when I was a little kid. I don't remember where we bought this book, but when I think of my mom reading me books as a kid, this is one of the ones I think of. So, parents, as we go through the book, out of habit more than anything, I'm going to probably stop and ask some questions and things like that. You're welcome to pause and discuss with your kid or talk about them at the end or not talk about them at all. It's really up to y'all. I just miss my kiddos, and this is one thing that I can do to make it feel more like I'm there and to share something that's kind of important to me. So, New Feet for Old by Barrett Waller. It says, "To Mom and Dad and Cheryl with love. There once lived a peddler who wandered the countryside selling feet. He pushed a rickety yellow cart from town to town, shouting out his call. New feet for old, new feet for old, feet for the frail or feet for the trail. If it's feet that you want, then I'll make a sale. I've yak feet from Asia, snail feet from Peru. If there's breath in my body, I'll find feet for you." I can already tell you that this book is fiction. Think about how you know whether this book is fiction or nonfiction. When people heard his call, they stopped whatever they were doing and hurried to see the funny peddler in his green felt vest. There he is. He sold big feet and little feet. He sold pretty feet and nice-smelling feet. For town folk with aching toes, he sold slightly used feet that worked much better than the ones they had. Some of his best-selling items were animal feet. Kangaroo feet for people who wanted to jump over streams and fences. Cheetah feet for people who wanted to run fast as the wind. I know the words are backwards, but you can see the pictures. Mountain goat feet to give clumsy people sure footing on icy days. Once in a great while, he sold dainty butterfly feet for treading softly when babies were sleeping. Where did these most unusual feet come from? When asked, the peddler always winked and answered, "My feet closet, of course." The peddler sold his wares from spring until autumn. Then, when the first snow fell, he headed back to his home and his big feet closet, and he hung up his green felt vest for the long winter. And when spring came and the snow melted, he loaded his rickety yellow cart with feet and set off again. They're using the adjective rickety to describe his cart. What do you think rickety means? After one cozy winter by the fire, the peddler put on his green felt vest and discovered it bulged quite tightly around his belly. Look at our picture. Can you use it to find a hint of what bulged might mean? "It appears I might have added a pound or two," he admitted to himself, scratching his chin. To see if this were true, he tried to bend over to touch his feet. The buttons on his shirt strained and then burst off with a loud pop. The peddler shook his head and said, "Perhaps it is closer to 10 or 12 pounds. He stared into the mirror for a long time. His feet, with his big crinkly toes and rough soles, were still as sturdy as ever, but his back was now bent from pushing the cart, and his bushy beard was white as the edelweiss flowers that decorated his mountains. "I'll sell all the feet I have in my closet, and then I'll sell no more," he finally said with a sigh. "My feet are willing, but the rest of me is just too old for this." So that very night, he stacked up every pair of feet in his feet closet, and he started on his last journey. How do you think he felt leaving his house for his last journey? After a week's walking, he came to the village of Gwendon. It was a pretty town at the foot of the mountain with laughing fountains and small, sturdy houses built against the hot sun and cold winds. The sun was already high in the sky when he arrived, so he pushed his yellow cart to the middle of the town square and reached into his back pocket for a striped handkerchief. After wiping his brow, he went to work. "New feet for old, new feet for old, feet for the frail or feet for the trail. If it's feet that you want, then I'll make a sale. I've yak feet from Asia, snail feet from Peru. If there's breath in my body, I'll find feet for you." His call danced and echoed through the narrow streets. Soon all the townspeople were running, hopping, and hobbling to look at the peddler and his cart. For hours and hours, the peddler sold hundreds of feet. Business had never been so good. When a tired widow complained of feet that were sore from work, the peddler nodded. "For that, there's nothing better than frog feet," he said, quickly fixing her a sack. "Guaranteed to put the spring back in your step." For a pretty young girl hoping to be a ballerina, he had just the right pair. "These gazelle feet will give you a dancer's grace." And what extravagant price did he charge for his treasures? That is the best part of all. He took no money, and instead received something more precious from the villagers: a kiss on the cheek from a weary grandmother, the graceful curtsy of a shy girl, a joke from the town's mayor, and a booming song from the blacksmith. Finally, as the sun sank low and shadows stretched long across the uneven cobblestone, the last customer took his sack and danced away. With a smile, the peddler set his hands on the cart's handles, but a voice suddenly called him from behind him and asked him to stop. When he turned, a mother was running towards him, followed more slowly by a boy of about 9, who was walking on crutches. "We live outside of town and had traveled all day to see you," she said when she reached the cart. "Please, sir, Benjamin will take whatever feet you have left." The peddler looked kindly at the thin boy and nodded. Without saying a word, he turned to his cart for a nice pair of feet. But the cart was empty. The ostrich feet were gone, the giraffe feet were gone, even the centipede feet were gone. Business had never been so good, and there was nothing left for him to sell. He sadly turned back to Benjamin's mother. "I'll never forgive myself, but all my feet are gone." There was a long silence in the town square, as the boy and his mother stared at him. In the sun's last golden rays shining sweetly through the trees, the peddler slowly looked down at his own 2 feet. It took him only a moment to decide. What do you think the peddler decided in that moment? "Wait!" he cried. "I forgot that I have one more pair of feet." And this time, when he reached inside his cart, there was a bright orange sack. These are the best feet I've ever sold. They've explored more lands than the mightiest gray wolf and climbed more peaks than the strongest mountain goat. He closed the sack firmly and handed it to the boy. But you must promise to treat them well. What kind of feet do you think are in his sack? Benjamin nodded and carefully tore the sack open. A moment later, he let his crutches drop to the cobblestone and took a few steps on shaky legs. Joy brightened his face, and he began jumping up and down. At the same time, the peddler grimaced in pain as he felt the boy's illness enter his own legs. Tears streamed down the mother's cheeks, and she hugged the man until he thought he would burst. "Will you come to our house and celebrate?" she asked. He slowly limped. I think I missed a page. No, I did. He slowly limped over to the stone bench and sat down. "Thank you, but I'm going to rest here for a while. I have a long way to go tonight." She thanked him once more and called to Benjamin with one final wave. The boy raced across the town square ahead of his mother. The peddler silently watched the two of them go, and then he struggled to stand. A crumpled, bright orange bag blew across the square and landed beside his feet. With a puzzled look, he bent down and picked up the bag in the failing light. When he peered inside, a smile slowly spread across his face. "Well, I suppose someone threw these away for lack of a good fit. But then again, not everyone can wear elephant feet." And with that, he tucked a bag away and went tromping across the square and down the hill, each giant footstep shaking the earth until he and his yellow cart were out of sight. So I want to look back at a part of our story for just a moment because I want you to think about something. It says that he gave kangaroo feet to people who wanted to jump over streams and fences. He gave cheetah feet to people who wanted to run fast as the wind. Mountain goat feet to make clumsy people more sure-footed. Or he even gave butterfly feet to people who wanted to be quiet. I want you to think for a moment. And I want you to really give it some thought and be creative. If you could find our peddler and you could buy any animal feet from him, what type of animal feet would you want? And why? Parents, I'm going to leave a comment section underneath this post, and I want you to help your child really think. It may take them a little while to come up with it. What kind of animal feet would they want and why? Think about what we've learned about restating our question when you help mom and dad or grandma or grandpa or whoever's working with you today come up with your answer. I love you, and I miss you, and I hope to hear from you soon. I want to hear all about what you thought of our book.